Hello, friends. Let's start with the basic authentication in Web API. So this is the chapter number 10 in Web API series. And the pre-requirement for chapter is you must go through the video number 5, which is in our Web API series. And video name is like Web API, jQuery Ajax Call API. Okay. So these things are already shared with you people, right? So you can go through this video. So in this session, we will learn how to implement basic authentication and how to call API from Fiddler Postman by passing authentication token. Okay. Now, how to call API from jQuery by passing authentication token using jQuery. So let's start with like how to implement basic authentication. So before going into these things, we have to understand what is authentication and why we have to do these things, right? So we have here our previous one project, right? And we have written some controllers into that. So what we will do, we will take new project. Let me take it. Okay, let's take a new project. We'll call it basic authentication. Okay, and from here we will select MVC with Web API combined project. Okay, and in that project we will add one controller, and in this we will add one get method. Okay. Okay, so project is added. Here is the controller, right? So I'm right clicking on this controller folder and add controller. So we have to add web API to controller empty. Okay, let's add it. I will call it something item master, right? Let's add this. So we got this uh, controller available here, right? So let's add one HTTP get method there. Okay, uh, I am taking some ready-made code from our previous project for save our amount of time, right? So here we have a like list of object which is having this three value, and using this get method I am basically returning this list of object, right? Now when we have to access this API, what we have to do, we have to call this project URL, and we have to pass controller name and then get method name into the URL, right? So let's do these things. Before doing these things, let's set up the URL for Web API, right? So we have our format available here in our previous project. So we will use this only, right? So this is the URL I am setting into the uh, sorry, actually it should have been set into the Web API config. So we have to set it for Web API. Okay. So now we have set up this URL pattern into the Web API, right? If we have to access this Web API, we have to just like run this project as we have seen previously these things, right? So it has created its runtime URL with 60095 port, right? And in this application, we have our controller name item master, right? And inside this, we have a get method, that is get. So let's try this access from browser first. My controller name is item master. So before this, we have to add API in the URL, then item master slash get. Okay. Let's hit the URL. So and you can see that it has called that get method, and it has written that list of value in the just what we can say XML format. The same thing we can do here from Fiddler or Postman also. I will show you these things also. I'm going to Composer tab and we can do this. So here you have to select the method type, right? And hit the URL. Okay, so it has called and we got the result, right? This is my result. So here we got that result. Same thing we can do from postman. So we have to just uh, these are the tab available in the postman. Let me just cancel, close these things. So whenever you will open the postman, you will find this kind of UI here, and here you will find overview tab. So next to overview tab, we have a plus button. So you have to click on the plus button. So you will get new tab added here, and here you can enter your URL. Okay, and if you have to execute it, you can click on send button, and from here you can select your method type HTTP verbs. So let's click on send button. So it is called, and we got the response. So in the body, here are some tabs like pretty, then raw, previous, preview, visualization. So here we will get the result. Here we will get the status. So it is showing 200. Okay, right? Here it is showing like how much time it took to like fetch the data from the server. Now the problem with this URL is what means what is happening here. I am able to access this URL from anywhere, right? It is not asking me for any kind of username, password. I am just hitting it anywhere, and I am getting the result, right? So it is happening in these cases. So authentication and authorization is basically the process where our URL means whenever we get the request from our web API URL, we have to verify whether this URL is authenticated or not. If it is not authenticated, then we will send a response as a not authorized, right? If it is authenticated, then only we will send the result. Else there is a chance you will be able to access the Flipkart API and you will put a lot of order and you will put like payment is done, and you will get a lot of like why what we can say, a lot of stuffs from Flipkart without paying nothing, right? So how they have managed these things, right? मतलब यहाँ पे what I am trying to tell you guys कि मतलब अगर यहाँ पे authentication नहीं है तो anyone can access this APIs and we can do anything because हमें अगर पूरा access मिल जाता है like update method, payment method, तो we will tell like Flipkart के हमने payment कर दिया है by calling their APIs घर बैठे बैठे, right? But अगर authentication है तो अगर हम लोग वो try करेंगे तो it will ask us for ID passwords, right? And this is what we have to see here, how we can like make authentication in our project. So the first point is like how to implement basic authentication in our project. So in introduction, they have showed like authentication is used to protect our application and website from the unauthorized access, and also it restrict the user from accessing the information from tools like Postman, Fiddler. We have just used these things, right? In this article, we will discuss basic authentication, how we can like API call the API method using the Postman and consume the API using the jQuery Ajax. So as we have seen, we will see these three things in this application, right? So to um, achieve the basic authentication, we have to make some changes in our projects. So in the step number one, they have showed like we have to add one class. So let's go to our project. My project is basic authentication, right? In this project, I am taking one folder here, or what we can say. Let's take one folder. So let's or let it be. We will add this class direct inside the project. So we have to add one class. So I'm adding here add new class, and I will call this class name as a basic authentication. Okay. So this is my class basic authentication. Let's add it. Okay, so this class is available here in the project, right? Because we have added in the project. This is my class, right? At the root directory. Now the next step is what we have to inherit this class from attribute class, and this is the basic of the sorry authorization attribute. So let's go to document and find these things. So this is my class name. Let's add this. And this class is comes in http dot filters namespace. Okay, so we have to add this filter here. Okay, so next thing is what we have to override one method from this class, and this method name is on authorization. Okay, So it has some what we can say some namespaces which needs to be added in our project. So someone are like controller. So let's find this method first. So you have to simply type override, then method name on authorization. Okay. So this way you can find all the methods which are like overriding from that class. Okay. So this is the method we have to call. This name is public override void on authorization. Let me take this as it is in our project. I will explain the code. Okay. Let's copy this and put these things here, right? Okay, now you can see that we are getting so many errors here because of we have not added this uh, namespaces, right? So we have to add these things. Now for this we have to add this namespace text. Okay. And for generic principal, I think there is one more namespace, that security dot principal we have to add in our project. Okay. So it is added. And for this thread, we have to add system dot threading namespace, right? So now what we have done, we have defined one class, basic authentication, which is inherited from authorization filter attribute class, right? Inside that class, we have override this method on authorization. Let's put a debugger here. Okay. And that method is having one parameter HTTP action context, which is having this object, right? Action context. Let me add namespace for this also. Okay. Now, inside this method, what we have checked, action context dot request means this object dot request dot header dot authorization. So far we have seen some header type, right? Like, let me come here. We have seen content type header, right? Content type header, then accept header. The same way we have a authorization header, which we can use to make a ajax call. So it will find whether there is any username password having in that authorization header or not. If it is not there, it will go inside and it will unauthorize the our request. So this is code for unauthorized. So it will assign this response to our request. Okay. So this is our request and it is assigning response to this our request, which is unauthorized, right? If there is username and password, we have written some code. So the username and password will be like encoded into base 64 token code. I will show you these things. And what we will do, we will get this data from this header. So this is the code for getting data from header. Your request dot headers dot authorization dot parameter. So you will get values into that variable. From that variable, we have to get values and it has to convert into our normal text. Okay, I will show you these things. Now after this, what we have to do, we have some logic inside this and we will like split these things and we will check whether the username is as like expected or not. If it is not, then we will again unauthorize the request. If it is valid, then we will send the response to the browser, right? Now here I have taken username hard coded, but in our project we are going to take these things from database. So we will verify the token with our database in our like real time project. Okay. So once this class is ready, what all we have to do is let me rebuild it. We have to uh, let me done these things. Okay. uh, it is done. Actually the one curly bracket was missing over there. Okay. So once it is done, what we have to do this here, we have to add this attribute class at our method. We have to method like decorate our method with this attribute class. So we can do this way. We can like decorate our method with this our basic authentication class, right? So let's rebuild it and run it again. Let me add some debuggers here. Here I will add one debugger. Here we have already added debugger. Okay, so project is loaded, right? Let's request our URL. I have that URL available, I think, in the composer tab, right? This is my URL, right? So here what will happen? This is the filter class. Let me open the code. Okay, this is my filter class, and what we have done, we have decorated this class to this method. My method name is get, right? So whenever you will call this method get method from API, it will call that basic authentication class first, and it will call that on authorization method always, right? So let's do this from browser first. Let's hit it. So you can see that we have called that API get, and it went on authorization method first before like calling our method, right? So it will go here, and in context we will have all the detail which we sent from the browser, right? So here it will check whether authorization header is having some value or not. So we have passed nothing from authorization header, so it is having no value. So it will go here inside, and it will unauthorize our request. So let's see if it is unauthorized or not. So you can see that this page isn't working, right? If you F12, and you can see that it did not find that URL also, right? Control F5 again. So the request header was having no data, right? So we did not get chance to run our method. So failed. It is showing failed. If I go here, it is showing it did not find that API. 401 is error code is written from the browser, that is unauthorized, right? So it is mean that the user which is trying to access this URL is not having access of these things, right? Now let's do the same thing from Fiddler. Okay, here I have added this URL. Let's execute this. Once I will execute it, again it will find if there is something in the header or not. If there is nothing, it will not work. Okay. Uh, okay, so again we have got 401, and it is showing 401 unauthorized, right? So it is mean that user is not authorized. So we have to send the header parameter values, right? I think I have ready that value here. I will show you how I have generated this token. So this is the syntax of passing header parameters. Okay. So you have to write authorization, then colon, then you have to add text basic, and then your username password. So I will tell you how I have generated this username password. Let me copy these things and show you these things in the notepad. Let's see in the notepad. Okay, you can see that this is the syntax of passing authorization headers. Okay. You have to write basic, and then you have to write your username and password. So this is actually encoded 64-bit character value. I will show you how we can do that. If you go to Google, and if you will find base 64 encode decode, right? Let's run it. So I'm searching only base encode 64, right? So we will get encode decode site. This is first site like base 64 encode.org. You can go here, and you can encode or decode your code. If you have to encode this, you can just write anything, whatever you want to write. For example, Paresh. If I will click on encode button, it will encode this value, and you will get such a token value, right? Now we have already token available. We have to decode it, right? So decode, how we can, okay, so we got it, right? So from here we can decode it. So this is my token. Let's decode it. So it is basically, this is my token, right? This is my username and password. I means previously generated this. So username is like sm@speedosoft.com, then colon 12345 is my password. Okay. So let's come here to the fiddler. So I have added this authorization parameter, and let's hit the URL again. So if I will hit it, you can see that in the authorization parameter, it is showing there is something, right? It is not null anymore, right? So it will not go to inside if condition, it will go to else part. So here we will find parameter value from parameter property, right? So here we will get that token. So we got this token from browser, right? From our fiddler. So here what we will do, we will convert this token to the again normal string using encode utf dot get string of convert base 64 string and your string name, right? So we have converted this into our normal text. Okay, so we got our normal text. Then what we have done here, we have split this value using split method of the string method, right? And we got these values into the array. So at 0 number we have my username, and at 1 number we have my password, right? So we have just checked whether the username is matching with our username or not, which we have given hard coded. But in case of real time project, we will take it from database, right? And then here we have set that username as our current principal property, right? So it is mean that we have authorized the request from the fiddler, right? Okay, so in this case what will happen, it will go to our get method also, because of that request is authorized, right? Then it will return the result, and we will get the 200 response. So this is the response, right? 200 we got it. And in this case we did not get that 401 response, right? The same thing we can do from postman. Let's do these things from postman. In case of postman, what we have to do, we have to just simply put here our url first. Okay, then if I will send the response directly, we will get nothing, right? So it will unauthorize the request. So you can see that here 401 error is showing unauthorized, right? To run with authorization, we have to select authorization from here, and from this drop down you have to select basic authentication, right? Once you will select it, it will give us an option like passing username and password. So in our case, username is sm@speedosoft.com and password is 12345. Anyway, we are not checking password in the code, but let's run this. Okay. So we have to pass this to these things here, then say send. Now in this case, what will happen? We will have something in our what authorization parameter, right? So we have these things here, right? It is base encoded 64 value, which is done by our postman, right? Now again, the same thing will happen. We will check these things. We will get this data from that encoded value, and we will set this to the current principal, right? And then we will get the access of our method, right? So now you can see that the status is 200 and we got our result here in the these things, right? So this is the way of like working with basic authentication. Now our next point is what basically we have to call our basic authentication from jQuery. Okay, so we have just seen how to call authentication parameter from fiddler and postman, right? Now last point is calling the same thing from uh, jQuery, right? Okay, so let's flip to Visual Studio and open our application, basic authentication. So let's take one controller here in the same project. Let's add it. So I will take MVC5 controller empty, right? So I'm taking MVC controller. So item master UI, okay, or you can say masters edit. Okay, I have added that master controller, and inside this I am adding one view index, sorry, action, and using this action I am adding one view. Let's add one view item master. Uncheck this use layout page. Okay, okay, we got this view added here, right? ठीक है. So this is my uh, view. Okay, let's add this controller name and action name to our URL, root URL, right? Controller name is master and action name is item master. So we have added this into the root config, not web API root config, because these are the MVC pages, right? This is MVC controller and MVC action. Now, what we have to do here in the CSHTML page, in the head section, we have to add some jQuery code. Let's try this. We have some ready code available, so we will use this for to save our like amount of time. Let's come to the document. So here we have this code available. Let's take this code and we have to add this into this head section, right? And we have to add upload our jQuery reference also here. So I can take any file. So I have taken this one. So we have to take this file only, jQuery 3.1.1.js, right? Now here we have to give the URL. So let's take a URL from Fiddler. And when we called it from like Postman or Fiddler, that time we gave this header authorization parameter, right? So in Fiddler we gave it from this area, right? From this section. And in case of jQuery, what we have to do, we have a like type URL content type header parameter. So the same way we have a header parameter also. So in this case, what we have to do, we have to like add comma here, and then we have to add header, then colon, and in curly bracket we have to add this our header parameters. So the parameter name is authorization, and then we have added like basic plus, and this is our token. So right now we are like passing this token hard coded, but in case of like a real time project, this token will generated at login page. Okay. And this will be available for some time throughout the project. So this time will be like managed by our code and these things. Okay. And this unique token will be available in the throughout the project, right? Then data type is JSON, and these are the other things. Okay. So let's run the project, rebuild it once and run it. Have we changed that URL? Yes, we have changed it, right? So it will load that master's item master view. Okay. Then it will call this method, right? Okay. So it has called that API. Which one? This one, right? So and before calling this, it got this basic authentication attribute class, and it has called that unauthorization method. So here you can see that we got this parameter into the authorization property, right? From the jQuery, right? And we have done the same things here. The same thing is happening here, which was happening for the previous time, right? So it will give us an access of to access this method, get method, right? And this is how we can access it from our jQuery project. We got this result here, right? In F12, let's do this again. Control R. Okay, we got 200 status code, right? And we got the result also in the preview response. We got this result here in the alert box, right? In the console also you will find it because we have printed there, right? If that header parameter are not passed from the jQuery, what will happen? Let's come here and see it. Let me comment it for understanding. Okay, I have commented this. So it is mean that we are not passing this header parameter anymore from the Ajax call, right? Let's control F5 again. Okay, so again, it has called that method, and you can see that it got nothing, right? In the header parameter, authorization parameter. So it will not authorize our request, and we will not be able to access our data. So we I think it is the previous request. Let me close it, F12 it. Okay, 200 it is showing, but it is not able to access it, right? Because we did not get the result, right? If you go to console, 401 unauthorized, right? We got it into the console. So why it is written in the console? Because of we have made this code, right? What we have done, we have written result, and we have written it into the console.log file, right? That's why it is showing like unauthorized 401. So it is mean that if you will send the header, then only it will be able to access this URL, else it will not be able to access it, right? Let's do this again. Now it is authorized and we got the result, right? And we got it here also, right? So this is the concept of basic authentication in our web API, and this is the code available we have here in the document. Okay. So in this session we have seen, let me go to the top. So in this session we have seen how we can implement a basic authentication in web API, then how like call it from Fiddler and from Postman, and how it call from jQuery, right? So to do these things, what we have done in our project, we added one class. That class name was basic authentication, right? And it was inherited from authorization filter. And we have override this method on authorization, and then we have written this code. So make sure you guys will go through this code. Okay. So go through this whole code. Okay. And you make sure you will add this all namespaces and these things, right? So make sure you will add these namespaces. Then finally we have to decorate our method, our API method. Let me find it where it is. Okay, this is my API method, right? So here we have decorated our API method with basic authentication class. Okay, this is the code for authentication. Okay, and this is the code for API. And the same code is available in our document also. So if you come here, you will find it. The same code I have kept in our document. So you can use this also. So make sure you will go through the video, then you will use this code and you will work with these things. Okay. One more thing I wanted to show you here, we can like define this at a global level also. So instead of defining here, we can define this into the uh, API config file, right? Here you have to just add this code like filter config.filters.add new, and here new your class name. So our class name was basic authentication, right? So I have created object of that basic authentication class. In this case, what will happen? This authentication will be applicable for all the methods which are in our API control. Okay. It was method level, and we can like apply these things at controller level also. So from here you can do these things. Okay, so if you will apply this for controller, it will be applicable for all the methods for that controller. If you will define into the root config, web API root config, it will be applicable for whole project. And in case of if you define it to the method, then it will be applicable for that specific method. Okay, so this all was in the basic authentication. Okay, so we are done with this. Thanks.